following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hello, I'm Carl Seidel, host of The People's View. The People's View is a show sponsored by the Nashua Republican City Committee. The committee meets every second Thursday at the Crown Plaza. And if you want to contact us, we have a website, nashuagop.org. And at the end of the show, you'll see some contact phone numbers or email addresses that you may want to send us your comments and recommendations. Thank you for listening in.
Welcome to The People's View, a program dedicated to discussing local, state, and national issues and their effect on the American people. The People's View provides a platform for state representatives and national figures to present their viewpoint. Whether it's social, economic, or financial topics, you'll hear it on The People's View.
Hello, and today we have Sandra Ziehm, who's County Commissioner for Nashua and Hillsborough County. Sandra, you're looking for your third term now in the county, and the county has been going fairly well. You look for a nice next 2 years, or how do you see the next 2 years coming for the county?
When you say the county's going fairly well, yes, I would say overall we are. We continue to use up our reserves, which at some point in time, 2 years from now, I anticipate there will be no reserves. We subsidize our budget by approximately $3 million every year from a reserve. And I guess at one time that reserve had $50,000 or 50 million. Yeah, see, it's too high for my little peanut, to absorb million. Everything is millions when you're talking government. And so I'm concerned about that. And it was interesting, I had a conversation with Mr. Wenger, who is, you know, of course, that he is the administrator for the county. Bright man. We're very lucky to have him because he knows the county, he has his arms wrapped around all of our programs. And we've been trying to get a program instituted for real estate. Again, you're aware. The county is property rich. I mean, and it's funny, in pursuit of marketing these properties, which they have not been marketed, then I have become even more knowledgeable about what we actually have. For the viewing public, we not only have 500 of the most beautiful acres you ever want to lay your eyes on, and the rolling hills reminds me of Hollis, because when I think of beautiful space, I think of Hollis and the trees and the hills and just gorgeous.
This is part in Goffstown.
In Goffstown, absolutely. And it's on Goffstown Road, on both sides of the road. So, and in that, on one side, we have, of course, the nursing home. We have land in back of that nursing home and to the side of that nursing home, which could be developed into housing. Let's say that it might not be a nursing home, but it might be the step before a nursing home. Maybe it's going to be senior housing, or it's going to be subsidized senior housing. And what I would like to see, because I see us going further and further, when we give out of these reserves, we're going to be in big trouble, because that means that $3 million that we've been subsidizing, now the taxpayer's going to have to pay that. And I found out from David Fredette today, talked to him 10 minutes ago, that this year we had $600,000 approximately that was passed down to the county to pay, to absorb money that in the past we did not pay. Basically, it's money for long-term health care for our elderly, as in the nursing home. Our long-term health care costs have been, well, of course, our population in New Hampshire is aging, big time, as you and I attest to. So that being the case, it's going to get, as the population gets older and older, more and more people are going to have to be in nursing homes. And I went to a seminar for it, and they told me that New Hampshire, that Hillsborough County, our one county, there are 10 counties, obviously, in the state of New Hampshire, which we are the biggest. And we are going to have at least 200 more beds 200 more beds. And so that's a lot of money. And it's especially a lot of money in terms of not only we're going to have the beds, but we're going to have all the affiliated costs that go with those beds. And if we have that increased cost, plus we've lost all the reserves we had, looking down the road, financially, it could become a humongous financial burden. And so I think, and again, going back to these resources that we have, that I don't think we're maximizing, that from the day I got on the county board, it's been my dream to be able to market these properties professionally with real estate, because I'm a real estate person. I know the value. I know how hard we work for our money. I am not a commercial broker, so I don't qualify to list it, and wouldn't even if I did, because it would be a conflict, obviously. But to have them marketed, probably, for instance, as you're aware, the building in front of the administrative building on Bouchard Street.
It's been empty for several years
10
now.
years
10
or
years?
more. I mean, I can't even figure out how long ago that building became empty, and the fact that it sits there empty. Now, I understand the selectmen from Goffstown came in and talked to us about it, and their perspective was interesting. They did not see a demand, and obviously price is determined by demand. So, but if there's not that much demand out there, let's say that you were getting $12 a square foot in Nashua. Well, if you went to $8 a square foot, is there somebody that might come because of that? I think so. Yeah. And so I have this thing that we need to be aggressive about doing this. And going back to the nursing home, all of this acreage in back, I think of Trestlebrook in Nashua. Trestlebrook is leased land. So what they did was they had an arrangement with somebody. You come in, you put the modular homes, right? And we'll provide the land. And after the finished product, we will rent our land to the person who buys this house or this modular home. And so what that does is you have this rent forever and ever. So I'm thinking down the road, if we could do something like that, what a blessing it would be for our taxpayers. What a blessing it would be to relieve this burden, this financial that I see is going to choke us to death. And so I have to say I'm getting excited about it, because in my world, in my real estate company, if I have an issue, if it's not resolved within 6 months, I think something is really wrong. I mean, I say to myself, what are you, a turtle?
That's been sitting there for quite a while.
And I've been 4 years commissioner, and I haven't been able to get it off dead center. And that. And
the other land on the other side of the street, you have some old buildings, but there's still land that's developable.
There is so much. It's not only because we're now aggressively looking at this. We actually, as you know, we actually got the law changed, and Sean Jasper from Hudson sponsored that bill for me, and it actually passed. And of course, that took over. I mean, government moves slow, so that was like 3 years, 2.5, 3 years. And to me, that was much too long, because I like to do things yesterday. But we got it done. So now we're to the next step. Now we're formulating the way to do it, because, of course, with government, it has to be completely fair. There can be no special interest. Everybody has to have a chance to bid on it. And so we had our first meeting where we're developing the forms to market this property. And in that, when we were doing that, we actually got into the discussion of what did we want to rent. Was it just, now think, here we go. In Goffstown, we have the administration building, which now houses the county administrators, plus we have a court upstairs. But there's about a third of our building, in that building, that is totally undeveloped. So obviously, that's all space we could lease, and that also has been sitting empty for God knows how long.
When you lease these buildings, will you have have to pay some kind of tax to Goffstown?
Yes, if it's not nonprofit. If it's nonprofit, now of course the taxes are waived, and that's one of the issues that will have to be dealt with, because obviously if you're going to get $8, going back to how much you get, you may have to create incentives at the onset to get people in. Once they're in there, if you give them a 2-year break, let's say, but then after that 2 years, it's a steady uphill increase would make joy to my heart. So and I couldn't believe when we sat down and actually discussed all of the things that we have. That for the listening public, I have to assume that used to be a farm. It used to be a great big old farm with lots of outbuildings, not small outbuildings, huge outbuildings. We have 3 outbuildings that are all. We have one that they call the piggery. We have 3, and they're all. And we did have one commercial broker who was aware of the one building, and he said the one building with the overhead doors for storage would be. He thought that would be so easy to rent because people look for places. If you have heavy-duty equipment, then you look for those kind of places, and they're pretty hard to find. So he said, I think you could rent that pretty easily. So all 3 of those barns will be, I'm hoping now, again, there are 3 commissioners, and this, we haven't voted on this yet. We're now in the process of, Mr. Winger is putting it into a package that he can recommend to the 3 commissioners, and of course, as a body, we will vote on.
And get input from all the different groups. Because I know the nursing home has farmed some of that land, don't they, for vegetables?
Well, we on the one, actually the Valley Street Jail.
The Valley Street Jail.
And even people from the community come and farm. The one side is almost completely farmed in the summer. And the other 2 commissioners have been very excited about the prospect of having trails, we actually have river frontage in the back of the Bouchard building. And that frontage, they think, would be wonderful to develop into trails and to a walk, so you can go for nature walks. And they think that we could use some of the property there also to put things that would be married to entertainment, like you might be a little putt-putt golf course or something. Anything, or you might sell snow equipment like snowmobiling or that kind of stuff. And of course, that's area that I'm talking about is pretty much in back also of the women's prison, which is another building. The public is probably going to be, they're saying 3 to 5 years. I'm thinking probably 5 because going back to how slow government works. But in 5 years, that's more income that we're going to lose. And it kills you. You can't sustain all of those losses, so we really need to be thinking about how to get our assets to pay some of these costs for us, so that as taxpayers we won't have to carry it all. And but we have those 3 buildings. Then in front of the Bouchard building, now I told you the whole third of the building, the Bouchard administrative building, is empty. Then in front of our building is a 2-story, beautiful building. That's the building we're talking about that's been empty for 10 years. Then again, we're going to the women's prison to the left of there, which is going to be...
That's quite a lot.
But scares me.
Run out of time. Let's talk about some of the other things that involve the county government. The prison, how is that getting along? Is that... I know it's functioning well, but is there any kind of long-term problem there that you have to worry about?
Well, my opponent, there was an article recently in the Union Leader, and she mentioned the fact that our mentally ill sometimes end up in jail. That's not exactly what happens, because
have the mental ill
we have a court,
now.
and it's a wonderful program. And actually, right now, as we speak, we have approximately 75 from Nashua and 75 from Manchester. So it's like 150 that are actually already in mental health programs, because what happens is if they get, let's say that they steal something or whatever they do, they violate the law and now they're in front of the judge. We have created this program, and it was voted on by the commissioners and approved by the commissioners, that the court, at their option, could say, all right, this is clearly someone who needs help. Medical help, not
incarceration.
Right, not incarceration. And so those people we provide, and it is a costly program, because we provide the medicines that they need to keep themselves modulated, if you will. And before this program came, I actually heard of people who violated the law because they didn't have money for the medicine they needed, and they knew if they got in jail, they would be taken care of. And picture this, if we have a patient there who has AIDS, for instance, that's very costly medicine. That's not $10 a month. It's a killer.
Quite a bit.
It is, and it is the medical costs that are the most threatening of all the liabilities we have at the jail. In fact, Mr. Dion, the superintendent, has been wonderful. We are actually taking not patients, because what would you call them? We're other counties who do not have adequate space to house their prisoners will pay us to take them. Right. So, and we have quite a few of those now too, and of course that supplements our budget.
And you're pretty close to being full then.
No, actually not. We have almost, we can hold 700, and I think we are around 600, under the high fives. So we could take another 100. At one time, we had federal prisoners there, and I understand for what back then. That's been probably before my time. Well before my time, but at that time when we had the federal prisoners, I think we were probably to capacity. But then there was somebody upset the cart. I don't know what happened, but whatever happened, those prisoners,
those federal prisoners, a lot
are
of them
now with Stratham County,
aliens.
And Stratham County is enjoying the financial benefit of those. And there is a financial benefit. Every prisoner that they pay for obviously adds to. It helps.
It covers a lot of the overhead.
It helps. And so you keep track. But the thing that I do want to share before our time is over is that the county this year, the state passed down over $1 million in long-term health care costs to the county. Over $1 million. It was like 1.2 mil is what I want to say. And so we in turn are passing some of, even with the $3 million subsidy, we passed, I think it was, I spoke to David Fredette this morning. He told me it was like $600,000 that Nashville will end up having to pay on the county tax bill that we were not paying before. Now, if you think about it, if they passed 1.2 mil and you're only picking up 6, that means that the county absorbed 6. So please know that we looked at that, but we looked at that budget inside, outside, upside, downside. In fact, I have to say that I made, going to my last visit with you, I made recommendations for cuts that did not happen because in the end, after we vote on it, it goes to the legislature, to our delegation. And some of them just didn't have the heart to cut the UNH cooperative or the different things like that.
Well, they have to take care of it. I mean, you have so much income. I guess real estate is doing fairly well, but that's the only real significant thing that you can count on other than the tax.
Well, the interesting thing with Dave was, and this is what I think the listening public needs to know, the $600,000, when that is spread across the base of Nashua, if you own a $250,000 house in Nashua, which is your average price, then that means that you will be paying $25 more on your tax bill for the year, for that one item, yes. So if other people have added beyond there, but I heard, now I saw on TV or in the newspaper or something where they were taking some reserves to pay down to try to keep the tax increase from being too high. So we are.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, Sandra, I know that you'll be doing well. I hope the election. You handle the other job in Board of Education. I don't know how you do both. But, anyway,
I hope that people will come out and vote for me.
That's what we need.
I need people to vote for me.
All should go out and make sure their neighbors get out to vote.
Well, the one thing I would like to say to the public is always know that I do the best I can to try to keep costs for the taxpayer. Our taxpayers, our communities, the burden it's ever increasing, and we need to watch. We need to watch as diligently as we can.
In the 2 years that I was chair of the executive board, I was happy to work with you. It was pleasant. So
always a pleasure.
And,
thank you.
And we'll have you back again after the election.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.